Hi folks. Hopefully I'll be able to post this week. I'm sorry I've had some problems getting my videos online, but I think I've worked the kinks out. So with the time I have here, I want to focus on the midterm. The big story this week in our class is about the midterm. So here's some things you need to know. Your midterm will be available from Tuesday the 17th until Thursday the 19th at midnight. You need to complete your midterm by Thursday the 19th at midnight. When you sit down to do the midterm, you'll need to do it all in one shot, so please give yourself some time when you'll be able to do that. You'll have up to 90 minutes to complete the midterm. It will not shut off after that, but it will show me that you went over the time. I'm going to give you some super study secrets on the midterm in a minute, but that's the basic information you need to know. So if I was you, I would get my studying done, and I would jump right in and get the midterm done as well. Besides that, this week, I also have down here for you to watch the video about how heroin affects the mind and body, and to read the effects of opiates on your body. Tonight on 60 Minutes, I'm doing this video after I watched a very interesting special that they had on 60 Minutes about opiates and the DEA, and in particular pharmacy companies, some bigger companies. It's one of those things I'm going to have to watch again. I don't think I'll have it as a link this semester in the course, but I certainly will next semester. So if you get a chance to check out the 60 Minutes special that was on tonight, it's really worth your time. It's exactly what we've been talking about in terms of OxyContin, how pharmaceutical companies really took advantage of opiates beyond just doctors. They're looking at a much bigger picture of money and greed and those kind of things that have led to where we're at with the opioid crisis today. And particularly, like I said, focusing on opiates and prescription painkillers. So make sure you watch the video, How Heroin Affects the Mind and Body, and then read the effects of opiates on your body this week. And there is a discussion board. So as usual, your first post will be due on the 19th, and your replies will be due by next Monday, which will be the 23rd of October already. All right, so here are some things to know about the midterm. First of all, it is 50 questions, multiple choice and true false. The midterm is worth 100 points. That's also listed under course information. So each question worth 2 points, multiple choice, true false format. Here are some top secret tips as you get ready to study. Know about heroin in terms of just chemically. Certainly you want to know the classification of drug it is. Know the signs and symptoms of someone that's been using opioids in general. You know, what would that look like? How would the signs and symptoms show up? You want to know why people take opioids. What has been the historical value of opioids? And again, I'm going to be a little general in what I tell you here. I don't want to spoon feed you these questions. Because first and foremost, the best way to prepare yourself for this final is to make sure you've done the readings from the heroin book, and also that you've touched on every single assignment that we've done up until now. We have gone through a lot of information, but it's very repetitive, the main points that I want to get across. So make sure you've done that reading, absolutely. And then go and make sure you've looked at all the assignments and attachments. When I made up these 50 questions, that's basically where I took them from. Our reading, and then I went and looked at the attachments and picked my questions from there. Okay, so the history of heroin, as I mentioned before, just knowing When we say that there's nothing new here in terms of an opioid epidemic, what that means. Our book talks about that. A few of the assignments talked about that too. Truth versus false, according to heroin and opioids and opium. There are some things that are just kind of societal myths or rumors that are out there. I think the book does a good job of showing you facts versus fiction when it comes to opioids. Know about the opium wars. That's something that's mentioned in our book. What was that all about? Also know a little bit of that history with the Far East. Know what happened between England and China. That's real important. Know when morphine was discovered and know how it was discovered. Know about as morphine and opioids increased in Europe, what was the reason for that? And then again, as it came over to the United States and opium became more popular over here, make sure that you review how opium was taken, who was taking opium, and a little bit about where it started in America and how it spread. There were some inventions along the way, or different ways that opioids were processed or made. Make sure that you know about those. Just a lot of history. I've got a lot of questions about the history because we did spend some time on that. And then switching to, if you look at some of the assignments that you had that talk about helping someone who's addicted to opioids. And how do we do that? What's the best way to help? There's a little bit of myth versus reality in those things. In the articles that you read about deaths in America and about problems associated with opioids, know what kind of numbers we're talking about and where problems started there. As I look through here, there's other things that have to do with history. You also want to know with painkillers and prescription medications, how those became more problematic, more of an issue in our country over time. A few of the steps and laws that have been taken to try to decrease the problems that we're having with opioids. So, and the articles that we have been looking at talk a lot about that. So make sure you know laws, legislation that have been put into place to try to help. History, opium, opioids, as I said before. You want to know medically the uses of opioids. What might people use opioids for? And as I mentioned before, just know some of the acts and laws that have been put in to try to help it. Know what someone who has been using opioids might look like, what the short and long-term effects of opioids might be. Where has opium come from and opioids over history? Kind of repetitive questions about that. We've talked a little bit about a love-hate relationship in our discussion boards. I think that's pretty common knowledge, but just know what that love-hate relationship is about when it comes to opioids. And in general, those are really the questions. Know the history, know what the opioid medications and heroin, the effects that they're going to have, what that might look like. Know in terms of economics and politics how this is played out over the years, and you will do just fine on this test. I gave you 90 minutes. I do not think this test will take you 90 minutes to do. And hopefully, if you prepare yourself, you'll be less stressed out when you sit to do this. One more warning about not waiting until Thursday night at 10 o'clock. I am not always sitting in front of my laptop or waiting by the phone, and I don't want you to be any more anxious about this test than you need to be. 50 questions is certainly reasonable to what we've covered for now. Next Monday, I will have your grades in. You should be able to see them by Tuesday, and I'll have a new announcement up. But if you have questions about your grades, please make sure that you look through, or if you have a question about the test, get in touch with me next Tuesday by email to ask me about that. I wish you all good luck, and once your midterms are over, you can enjoy the rest of the week, I'm sure. All right, take care.